into it. Like I said, breaking news, Jon-Eric Sullivan is the new general manager for the Miami Dolphins. And, this isn't really a surprise to us. We were talking about how he was one of 3 finalists, along with a 4th, which was the interim general manager for the Miami Dolphins. It seemed like they had their eye on Jon-Eric Sullivan from the beginning. You guys know last year there was a heavy cycle of him, obviously getting interviews across the league for the next general manager position at multiple franchises. But he is the Miami Dolphins' new general manager. The news I seen it first break from Diana Rossini, who said the Dolphins are hiring Packers VP of player personnel Jon-Eric Sullivan as the franchise's next general manager. Adam Schefter went out and he confirmed that as well. Said new Dolphins GM Jon-Eric Sullivan is the son of Jerry Sullivan, the longtime NFL and college coach who retired in 2021 after more than 40 years in coaching. His father was the Dolphins wide receiver coach in 2004, the same team Jon-Eric now leads as general manager. Pretty cool little history there. So obviously his dad being a coach pulled a little bit of his player background. Jon-Eric Sullivan, I think he settled in as a defensive back, probably played multiple positions in high school. He was recruited, went to South Carolina, quit, and then came back the next year as a walk-on. And obviously his career fizzled out pretty quickly. So he was kind of an undersized defensive back. So he had a little bit of playing experience. Obviously grew up in a house where his dad was a coach for more than 40 years. This guy eats, sleeps, and breathes football. I think this is an awesome hire for the Miami Dolphins as they're going to try to now build the Green Bay Packers in South Beach. It's going to be really, really interesting to see how everything goes down there. Now, we got Dave in the chat said, are we going to lose Jeff Hafley too? That would suck. There's a good possibility that we lose Jeff Hafley here, Dave. Now, again, just because we tie it to Jon-Eric Sullivan, obviously being, a member of the front office there and everything that we've the way we've approached building a team since he's been here in Green Bay, which has been some time. We'll talk about his history here in just a second. It doesn't necessarily mean that he likes Jeff Hafley as much as anyone else. It's just when you've got somebody that you're familiar with, right? He helped go out and put together this defense for Jeff Hafley. Whether you think the defense has performed up to snuff or not, really makes no difference. The question is, do they see eye to eye in terms of how Jeff Hafley wants to operate a defense? If that's the case and that's his top candidate, yes, I think Jeff Hafley is going to be a top 5 choice for the Dolphins, me personally, although his name, to the best of my knowledge, has not been attached to the Dolphins job yet. I think he's going to emerge as one of the top candidates for sure. Unfortunately, I think that's going to happen. But that's kind of what we dive into next. I said Jeff Hafley to Miami watch is in full effect. So obviously the ties there that we just mentioned. Now, another one that kind of popped up, and it was actually in the comments of my tweet there. And you guys can go to that tweet and see who it was. I want to give credit, but I don't have Twitter pulled up. I just screenshotted this for a quick show purpose. But someone in the comments says, does this mean Malik Willis goes to the Dolphins? And I didn't even really think about that. Think about this. Jon-Eric Sullivan, Brian Gutekunst's right-hand man, right? He goes out and they trade a 7th-round pick for Malik Willis. Now, you guys know there was a former Packers executive that was the former general manager for the Tennessee Titans that drafted Malik Willis. Obviously, he and Goody, I'm sure they still speak and all of that stuff. I'd say behind the scenes, Goody probably reached out to him too. Hey, what was the problem with Malik in Tennessee? And I guarantee you that general manager who lost his job that drafted Malik Willis is probably saying, no, he wasn't the problem, which proved to be true now. So probably relay that information back to Brian Gutekunst and obviously Jon-Eric Sullivan being his right-hand man. I would imagine that Malik Willis will be on their radar. Now, for how much, right? And this is a fascinating story with Malik Willis because you've got Dan Orlovsky said he's going to get 40 to 50 million per year. Malik Willis will, right? There was someone else, a former player the other day that said something similar, right? I expect no less than $30 million that Malik Willis will make. But then you go to Spot Track and look at the fair market value, right? And they do the comp picks, snap percentage, all of that stuff. And that's the only thing really dragging Malik Willis down is his snap percentage, right? He probably played more NFL regular season football in Tennessee than he has Green Bay. That's the reality of the situation. So when you see his grade pumped up here, a 92.3 under Matt LaFleur in Green Bay compared to what he done in Tennessee, right? You would think, okay, man, he looks like a superstar in Green Bay. but we've got more tape of him in Tennessee playing, and it was really, really bad football, right? So you've got to kind of weigh all those things out. So I could see where Spot Track would go, look, yes, he's an electric football player and he's played great here lately, but is he really worth $40 million? I personally would not pay Malik Willis $40 million. But when you compare the other free agents across the league, like your Daniel Joneses, he's projected at $44 million according to Spot Track. Well, they got Malik at 10.5. So if you take like someone like Dan Orlovsky, who's going to pump up the numbers, he's a former quarterback, right? He's going to support his guys, his position. If you take his number of 40 million and you take Spot Track's of 10 million and the other that's in between at 30, probably there's a decent chance I think he falls somewhere in the 20 to 30 million range, right? And that's definitely outside of the Packers market, right? You're not gonna have a quarterback sitting on the bench for $20 million. Now, if you could get him to the tune of what Spot Track said at 10.5 million, hell yeah, I would do that. I think he's proven to be valuable enough. You could give him a 3-year, $30 million deal, guarantee 20 million of it, and then even tack on 3 voidable years and spread that cap hit out to where he's only on the cap for $5 million per. You can make that happen. Unfortunately, I don't think Malik Willis is just going to go for that 10.5. So I think the truth is somewhere in between. But again, you can see how he's graded out. Now you notice that I had to remove the minimum snap. So if you remove the minimum snaps, it's basically saying it's a much smaller sample size. That's why he doesn't have a ranking there. But if he were to hold the level of play that PFF thinks that Malik Willis has played at, he would be the second highest graded quarterback in the league, right? But again, it's a very small sample size. You can see Jordan Love comes in at number 5, playing far more snaps with an 88.5 as his PFF grade. And you'll notice you do not see Caleb Williams on this list. We're just mentioning that. So, just in passing there. But again, does that mean he's going with them to Miami? I think they'll at least make that phone call, right? I think that'll definitely happen. All right. What the Packers are losing in Jon-Eric Sullivan as we wrap this up. So he started coaching at Gardner Webb in 2000. He was a student assistant. And then in operations with the Packers, guys, he's been with the Green Bay Packers since 2003. That's the year I became a Packer fan. Like, I didn't have a favorite pro NFL team. You guys know my story. I kind of rooted for the Steelers because my brother was a big Steelers fan. I was more of a college football fan. And then I learned about the Green Bay Packers history in 2003. And ever since then, I've been just a diehard Packer fan, right? He's been with the team as long as I have. That's funny to say, right? He was a training camp intern. And then the Green Bay Packers hired him from 2004 to 2007 as football operations department employee. So he's just a slappy in there, right? And then from 2008 to 2011, he was Central Plains Region Scout. So he's got the same pedigree, if you will, as a Brian Gutekunst, as a Ted Thompson, right, as a Schneider. All these guys that have kind of came up through the Packers organization, they're scouting first. They're draft and develop is kind of their process. Not that they won't spend money in free agencies. You've seen Goody do. You've seen Ted do it too. But they're scouts at heart. So he was Central Plains Region Scout. Then from 2012 to 2015, he was Southeast Region Scout. So he was in the SEC scouting, right? In 2016 and 2017, he was the director of college scouting. So he got that promotion. In 2018 to 2021, Jon-Eric Sullivan was the co-director of player personnel. And then from 22 to 26, vice president of player personnel. And now, of course, he has been hired as the Miami Dolphins as their new general manager. So that's just a quick little breakdown of Jon-Eric Sullivan and exactly what the Miami Dolphins are getting. If you're a Dolphins fan and you're watching this video, you want to know a little bit more about Jon-Eric Sullivan. That's why you tuned in. Make sure you hit us in the comments. You're watching this video back later. Let us know how you feel about this hire. Also, Packer fans, do you think we're going to miss him? What are we going to be missing? Essentially, we're going to be missing an extra scouting expert, right? And Brian Gutekunst's right-hand man. And here's the other thing, too, that you got to take into consideration. When Schneider left Green Bay and became the general manager for the Seattle Seahawks, right? I think he's had some success. Would we all agree? I mean, this dude, he's won multiple Super Bowls. If I remember correctly, I think they won 2 Super Bowls. They definitely won 1. And you see the season they put together this year. They're kind of competing for the same type of prospects. They got the same philosophy on how to build a roster, right? So you're going to have another person that's going to be poaching from the same list of prospects and how we approach scouting, draft, and development, probably free agency as well. Going to be very, very similar to how the Packers do business. So that's something else you got to take into consideration. I'm excited over the next 3 to 5 years to see how Jon-Eric Sullivan tracks in Miami. And first thing is going to be that head coaching hire. And we'll see if it's Jeff Hafley or not. Hopefully it's not. But again, we'll dive into that a little later. So if you're watching this video back later, let us know in the comments, how do you feel about this situation if you're a Packer fan? Are you worried? You think, are you worried about losing half? Or maybe you're like, you know what? I think we'll be okay without Hafley. The defense's numbers have not been good this year, guys. I mean, they were great early, and now they've trickled off as injuries set in. Now, I give him a pass for that, just like I give Matt LaFleur a little bit of a pass. How the hell are you going to compete with losing some players at the most important positions, right? You're losing your top edge defender, tier 1 position. 3-tech and Devontae White, tier 1 position. You know, you've had sackbacker problems throughout the year, Quay being a little bit injured as well. You guys know you went out and you spent money in free agency on Nate Hobbs. He was banged up all year, barely got on the field. When he did get on the field, obviously, he goes back on IR. A lot of things that kind of transpired in that regard. Josh Jacobs being banged up since he landed on that concrete out there in New York. A lot of different things coming into play. But let us know in the comments how you feel. Hit like, subscribe, click the bell icon so you're notified when we go live here in the future.